Have you tried my secret recipe for veggie burgers that taste like real burgers? Like, this is a black bean burger. It's not really mine. This one is, but the original recipe's not. It's adapted from a recipe that I saw on a video from Chef David Lee from Planta in Toronto. He gave a quick synopsis of the burger, so I just kind of filled in the rest. Now, I came out with a video just a few years ago and everybody loved it. It was really good. It's one of my favorite burgers. But over time, I've tuned and tweaked it. So we've made some additions, a little bit of changes to the techniques and the processes to make this burger, but I'm telling you, it comes out insane. So let's get going.
Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna be draining and rinsing all of our canned beans. Now we're gonna be using some canned lentils. We're just gonna drain and rinse those, along with some chickpeas and black beans. Now don't worry, I'll throw one of those screenshot things with all the ingredients near the end of the video, but for right now, we just have all of our beans. We're gonna set those aside. Now for like the flavor and texture star of the show here, it's really gonna be this blend of mushrooms. Now normally I just use portobello mushrooms, but like these mushroom blends that you can find at most grocery stores have a lot of variety, and I love that for like different flavors. And we're also gonna be using a block of firm tofu. Now for the recipe, I don't need the full block. I just need a little bit less than half. Now I'm just gonna cube the tofu up into like some small size cubes. The size doesn't really matter. And then we're gonna toss the mushrooms and the tofu into a saucepan and then cover them with water. Now we're gonna throw this over a high heat, add some salt, and bring it to a boil. Now in my very last video that I put out, I did a video where I said you should boil mushrooms, and part of that technique was boiling the mushrooms until all of the water evaporated out. Now mushrooms and tofu share one thing, which you can't really overboil them. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna boil these out until all of the moisture is completely released. Now at this point, once you get pretty close to that, you're gonna wanna start stirring this around to make sure that nothing sticks to the pan. Once all of that water is released, we're gonna toss in a little bit of olive oil, stir these up, make sure that they're seasoned well, cook them out. We're gonna kinda wanna brown that tofu just a touch. And now this part's done. I mean, and this looks pretty good. You could see the tofu kinda got like a little brown, and that's because the mushroom liquid, kind of flavor that tofu up really nice. This is gonna be really nice and savory. So we're gonna just set this aside for now. So now we're gonna pop out the food processor. You can use a blender if you want to use that, but we're going to be using all of our black beans and all of our chickpeas, and the total recipe is only going to be using about half of the lentils, but for right now we only want to put about maybe a quarter of the lentils into the food processor or blender. Now same thing with oats. We're going to be using about a cup of oats, but we're going to start with about 3/4 of a cup of the oats tossed into the food processor, and then I'm just going to pulse this up a few times just to kind of mix it up. Speaking of mixing it up, why don't you mix it up and click the like and subscribe button? It would really make a difference. Here I have canned sliced beets. Now a can is usually about 2 to 3 medium beets, so we're going to be using about 1/3 of the can of beets. And we also need some tapioca starch, a little bit of nutritional yeast, and some yeast extract. So you could use like Vegemite or Marmite. Either of those are going to work pretty well. And I'm also going to be using just a touch of liquid smoke, smoked paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, and a little bit of salt and pepper. Now I'm just really turning it on low and blending it together. I don't want it to be mush. You can see the consistency here is still kind of like dense and textured, but it's all mixed together really well.
So gang, real quick, right now is a great time for a coffee break. I'm gonna be making some Javi Coffee, today's sponsor. I've talked about coffee a lot on this channel in the past. I just love coffee. The taste, the smell, everything about it's great. And with Javi Coffee's coffee concentrates, you get that perfect cup of coffee in under 30 seconds. Javi Coffee is a high quality, ethically sourced, plant-powered, non-GMO coffee concentrate. All you do is fill your glass with your favorite liquid, hot or cold, then a tablespoon or 2 of Javi. Mix it up and enjoy. It's so good. It's rich, it's bold, it's so flavorful, it's so filled with flavor. I like to drink my coffee black, no sugars or creams added for me, so the coffee itself has to be really good, and this is really good. It's super convenient, you have no mess from the coffee maker, and really, it just tastes good. It's my favorite coffee. So gang, if you love coffee as much as I do, you gotta give Javi a try. Click the link in the description below or head over to buy.javicoffee.com/Saucestache and get 25% off your order when you use code Saucestache. That's 25% off using code Saucestache at the link below. Javi, thanks for sponsoring today's video and the awesome cup of coffee.
And we're back. So now at this point, all we're gonna do is just throw the rest of this into a large bowl. Now, I forgot to add some mushroom seasoning, so I'm gonna toss that in. And at this point, we're gonna add in the rest of our lentils, not from the can, but the rest of that half. Now I also want to add about a tablespoon of olive oil and that last 1/4 cup of oats that we had. Now this last thing here, I wanted to wait to the very end, and that's psyllium husk. That's going to really be the binder for this and what's going to give it a little bit more meatier texture than the original version. So I have a baking sheet. I'm going to throw on some parchment paper and we're going to make our burger patties. Now we want to make these a little bit larger than what you normally would because these are going to shrink up a little bit. And at this point, these are looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited about them. So this whole recipe will make probably about 12 burgers or so. mayo. So for right now, I'm just gonna cook 6 of them. I'll throw the rest in the refrigerator, but you can also make these burgers and do this next step and then save them after that. So now we're just gonna preheat the oven for 225 degrees. I'm gonna be using convection. If you have convection, that's really gonna help this work. And we're gonna drop these in and let these kind of like dehydrate for the next hour. So while we're waiting for these to dehydrate, Monica's gonna not realize that I was filming and walk into the kitchen to heat up her coffee, and I'm gonna make a burger sauce. So we're gonna start with equal parts mayo, ketchup, and Dijon mustard, then maybe a quarter part barbecue sauce, dash of liquid smoke, and then any amount of dried onions that you want. I like a decent amount. Now I'm also gonna be adding a little bit of sweet relish. Since we were kind of making like a black bean burger, I wanted to make kind of like a Southwesty style burger sauce. I think I accomplished that here. This is pretty good. So let's toss the burger sauce in the refrigerator, and the burgers are done. Well, the first part is. You can see these are dehydrated and they're pretty tough. Now the whole point of that was to kind of dehydrate them and make them denser, which is gonna give us a meatier texture in the end. So now we're just gonna heat up a non-stick skillet and add a little bit of olive oil and toss these into the pan. We're just gonna brown one side. One side's gonna take a little longer than the other. And I did forget to mention, I did season the top of these with just a little bit of salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Now after a few minutes, we're just gonna flip them over and then immediately add some vegan cheese. Now I'm gonna be adding the Violife. I think it's like the smoked provolone flavor. I mean, it's pretty good. So we're just gonna toss that on the top and add some water. Whoa, I added way too much water here. I don't know why I always do that. We're just gonna let that boil down till it gets almost to the bottom of the pan. Then we're just gonna close the lid and allow this to cook all the way through. So I toasted the bun so that way you all wouldn't be mad at me. I prepped up some lettuce, tomato, and onion. Now let's put together our burgers. I'm so excited to see what Monica has to say, but I mean, look at these burgers. This is a veggie burger. This is like a black bean burger. It's wild.
Okay, baby. I just want to see what you think, and I don't want you to be surprised. These are veggie burgers.
Okay.
Cheers.
Good.
Kind of like a black bean burger.
Yeah, like a black bean burger. It's got a good bite to it.
Yeah.
It tastes good with all the veggies and everything on here.
Yeah.
And I think it has a nice meaty taste to it.
Okay,
Nice
yeah.
meaty feel and taste.
So imagine, like, in my head, an Impossible Burger, but with the consistency of a black bean burger.
Exactly.
Yeah. You get all the flavors, but it's made entirely out of veggies. But it's pretty good. And you get a lot of meat for that price. And definitely has some of that bite.
Yeah, and it doesn't like break apart. Like, when you pull it, like I know I just pulled it, but like it stays together like a burger. I've had a lot of like veggie and black bean burgers that just crumble and fall apart.
Yeah, they just smush, yeah.
This stays together like a burger.
Well, that's it. The new secret recipe for the plant-based burgers. We're gonna love this.